GDP growing at 4.3% in the third quarter, the fastest rate in 2 years. It comes as inflation continues to cool. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett credits the president's agenda. Listen to this.
The point is that President Trump's policies are working, and they're very visibly working now because we've seen the data.
Wall Street appears to agree, with markets closing at record highs. Now let's bring in Gene Marks, small business expert and CEO of the Marks Group. Pardon me. I'll just start out. What's behind this GDP report? Why is the economy growing so much so quick?
You know, Nate, we live in a capitalist economy, and what drives it is consumers. And consumers are spending, Nate, and they continue to spend. I'm still looking at a pretty strong holiday season as well. You know, it's funny, all the narrative has been about, jobs and unemployment and, are we losing jobs as well? And it really does amaze me how people in the media, people I kind of ignore. We spend so much time on government data and not enough on private data. And when I look at jobs data, the two top payroll companies in the country, ADP and Paychex, over the past year, they're reporting that incomes have risen for both hourly and salaried workers anywhere between 3 and 7%. I mean, that is their actual numbers of millions of workers on their payroll systems. And like you just said, when inflation is cooling down to 2.7% and incomes have risen that much, again, real data, not from the government, it just doesn't surprise me that people are out there and spending, and it's consumers that are driving GDP.
Yeah, they're definitely spending, particularly in the top 10% of earners. But there were all these just gloomy predictions with Liberation Day and President Trump's tariffs. I want to pull up something from the New York Post written by Steve Moore. He asked the question, why do pessimistic pundits keep getting the Trump economy so wrong? And the quote from this article is, the lesson that the gang of doomsdayers in the economics profession should take from all this is simple. Don't bet against the wonders of the American economic engine of growth, especially not when we have a pro-business president who puts America first. So we heard the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, say that part of the reason so many of them were wrong was just because of a bias against President Trump. Why do you think so many economists were wrong? Because they want to make money, right?
Well, first of all, let me say that Steve Moore's column was great in the New York Post. I'm a fan of his. It was, and I think it's eye-opening for a lot of people to read. It's not uncommon to see people betting against the president. I cover and I work with so many small businesses, Nate, around the country. And I'm telling you, manufacturers and distributors, people in the construction industry, not that they don't have their challenges, but most of them are optimistic. And when I look at small businesses in this country, they make up 50% of the country's GDP and employ 50% of workers. You look at small business optimism surveys, like the one from the National Federation of Independent Businesses, they're closer near to all-time highs is where those numbers are coming out. And the reason does have to do with his policies. There was some major tax legislation that was passed middle of the year, which is going to make it so much more advantageous for smaller and mid-sized companies to invest in capital equipment and other things for their business. And on top of that, there were just anti-regulations or deregulations of a lot of things that were holding businesses back. The economy is a lot of it's psychological, Nate, and when I speak from my clients and the people that I talk to around the country, they are more optimistic, and that gives them the, sort of the basis to invest and spend more. I think we're starting to see that right now.
Americans are optimistic with gas prices right now. Today, $2.94 a gallon, the average across the country. So $2.84, pardon me. So that's certainly something to be happy with. So Secretary Bessent said that 2025 was setting the table. And in his view, 2026 was going to be the feast. Is that how you see this? Does there just need to be a little bit more time for President Trump's policies to be felt by the American people?
Yeah, I've told other people as well, and I always joke because I'm a certified public accountant, if you haven't figured it out by looking at me. We're trained to be pessimistic and cautious, so fair enough. But I got to tell you, Nate, looking into 2026, I am seeing many, many reasons to be optimistic. There's two things that I think are going to boom. I think the construction industry and housing is going to make a major comeback in 2026 because interest rates are now starting to fall to a level where people are going to start turning over homes. And man, that has a huge impact, almost 20% on our economy. And the same thing with manufacturing. I mean, you can't just turn the ship after decades of such a huge trade imbalances and expect that effect to happen, immediately. But, I speak to manufacturers around the country that right now are making investments, leveraging those tax incentives, and they're building out their facilities. They really do believe that they're going to be growing their businesses in 2026 and beyond. So yeah, a long answer to a short question. I'm very bullish for 2026.
And you talk about housing. Mortgage rates dropped this week, so that was certainly a reason to be happy this Christmas. Thank you so much, Gene, for your time, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.